it's easy. The milkman, the paper boy, evening TV. Did I get delivered here? Somebody tell me, please. This old world's confusing me. Clouds as mean as you ever seen. Ain't a bird who knows you're true. Then a little voice inside you whispers, don't sell your dreams so soon. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a face of somebody who needs you. Everywhere you look, when you're lost out there and you're all alone, life is waiting to carry you home. Everywhere you look.
On August 4th, 1892, in Fall River, Massachusetts, Andrew Jackson Borden and Abby Durfee Gray were brutally murdered in their home. The prime suspect, Andrew's daughter, Lizzie Andrew Borden.
Can I get you anything before we start? A glass of water?
No, thank you. I'm ready.
Can you tell me what it was like growing up?
I was born July 19th, 1860 in Fall River, Massachusetts. My mother, God rest her soul, was Sarah Anthony Borden, and my father is Andrew Jackson Borden. My mother died when I was young.
What was your father like?
My father was quite frugal. Even though we were wealthy, he cut costs everywhere. Did you know that we didn't even have indoor plumbing, even though every other family had it?
Indoor plumbing is for wimps.
I hated going outside to use the bathroom.
Emma, my sister, and I had a very religious upbringing, and we both regularly attended the Central Congregational Church. I enjoyed teaching Sunday school and was a member of the Women's Christian Temperance Union.
When did your father marry Abby Gray?
Father married her 3 years after my mother passed.
And what was your relationship like?
I hated her. I refused to call her by any name other than Mrs. Borden. That gold digger only married my father for his money.
No, we had no animosity towards our stepmother.
The sisters hardly ate meals with Mr. and Mrs. Borden.
Tensions were high in the Borden house in the days leading up to the murder.
Let me tell you, that family was drama. There was a time when Mr. Borden killed a bunch of pigeons.
How dare you kill my pigeons!
Lizzie, they were not your pigeons. Just because you built a roost for them does not make them yours. Them local hooligans were hunting them, so I had to put a stop to it.
Don't even get me started on the vacation the sisters took.
You girls are so dramatic. This is truly getting out of hand.
I'm sick of this. I'm going to New Bedford to get away from all this madness.
Girl, I'm coming with you.
Safe to say things were pretty intense. And don't even get me started on the property debacle.
Oh, wonderful news. I've decided to give some property to your family, Abby.
That's wonderful. I love it. And what about us? Your daughters?
Oh, well, I guess I can sell you your childhood home for like $1.
And here's where things get real.
Father, I would like to sell you the property you gave me.
Okay. How much?
$5,000.
Oh my God! Enter John Morse, uncle of Lizzie and Emma, who came to Fall River to discuss business with Andrew.
Hey, I'd like to talk to you about the property transfers.
Oh, what about them? I'm stressed enough as it is.
Do not give me that attitude.
On the evening of August 3rd, John Morse stayed at the Borden house. The morning after, John and Andrew discussed the property transfers. After that, John visited his niece and Andrew went on his morning walk.
Mrs. Borden suffered an initial strike to the head, which cut just above her ear. She then suffered 17 blows to the back of the head, killing her.
Maggie, I'm really tired. I think I need a nap.
Okay, let me help you take off your shoes.
Oh, Maggie, would you like to go to the department store with me?
Oh, no, thank you, ma'am. I'm not feeling too well. I think I'm gonna go take a nap. Mr. Borden was struck 10 to 11 times. One of his eyes had been cleanly split in two, suggesting he was asleep when attacked. He was still bleeding when found, suggesting a very recent attack.
Maggie, come quick! Father's dead! Somebody came in and killed him!
What did you hear around the time of the murders?
I heard nothing and went into the house. I didn't think anything was wrong. I heard groaning, maybe a scraping noise, maybe even a distress call.
Some say Lizzie's statements were conflicting, but I gave her a load of morphine to calm her down, which is probably why her statements were so different.
We didn't like her attitude. She was too calm and poised, and we didn't feel we had to search for much because she claims to be ill.
That was a stupid decision.
We found 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head with a broken handle. We think the hatchet with the broken handle is the murder weapon.
No blood was on the hatchets. They underwent thorough chemical testing.
Can you tell us more about the autopsies of Mr. and Mrs. Borden?
The family suffered a mysterious illness days leading up to the murder, so we checked the stomachs of the victims for poison, but no such evidence was found.
Some say I purchased poison to kill them. I needed the diluted hydrocyanic acid to clean my furs.
Let's just say hydrocyanic acid isn't too good at cleaning. It has no antiseptic properties.
Can you state your name and relationship to Lizzie for the camera?
I'm Alice Russell. I'm a friend of Lizzie and Emma's.
Did you ever see Lizzie do anything unusual?
Well, I stayed at the Borden house a few days after the murder to keep the sisters company. And I saw Lizzie tearing apart a dress because she was gonna set it on fire. Some believe this was the dress she murdered her father and stepmother in.
It had paint on it. Did you expect me to wear something as ugly as that?
Well, many people think Lizzie did it, right? While there's no physical or direct evidence pointing towards Lizzie, originally the police thought that a foreign man came in and killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden, but that theory's boring. Let's get to the juicy ones. The first of our theories is that Lizzie committed these murders in a fugue state. This means she killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden but doesn't remember any of it. How someone forgets they butchered 2 people is beyond me. While not much evidence backs this up, some people believe Lizzie was physically and sexually abused by her father. I mean, obviously there would not be much evidence, this was a long time ago, but incest was still taboo. If this was a revenge killing, I say she's quite the hero. Here's where things get good. Do you remember Maggie, the maid? Well, an expert speculates that Lizzie and Maggie were having relations. And what happened during one of those relations? Mrs. Borden caught them. They say she was absolutely livid and responded very poorly to the situation, and in the heat of the moment, Lizzie bashed her head in with a candlestick. When Mr. Borden returned home, Lizzie recounted all the details to him. Mr. Borden reacted the same way as his wife, so Lizzie killed him. I guess when it comes to love, bashing a few heads in is nothing. Speaking of Maggie, she can be seen as a suspect. It was an unusually hot day on August 4th, and she was ordered to clean all of the windows. After hours of heat exhaustion, she felt she had been putting up with it for too long. This gives her a possible motive to kill the Bordens. What I say about this? Good for her. And the final popular theory is involving John Morse. John and Andrew got into a heated argument that morning, and some believe that John returned early from his morning walk and committed the crime.
There is speculation surrounding Lizzie's actions, such as wearing all black and carrying a fan and flowers to her trial to make herself seem innocent. She even put $30 million in her will to go towards the Animal Rescue League, after a neighbor claimed she would kill animals and bury them in her backyard.
Oh please, I wore black because I was grieving. And that neighbor's a gossip. None of what she said is true. I love animals. Animals don't get the care that they need, which is why I put money towards them in my will.
The Lizzie trial was a huge media success. It seemed all we were putting about was Lizzie and her trial. I mean, she was a modest, quiet, innocent girl. She was far from the brawny, big, strong woman that was needed to commit these crimes. There's no way an innocent girl could have done that.
Oh please, that girl was so guilty. Did you know the Bordens pulled millions of dollars to make sure she was acquitted?
There's no way anyone else could have done it. That was an abuse of power trial.
When the crime was everywhere, it was really hard to follow what was true and what was not. You had one paper pushing Lizzie's innocence and another pushing her guilt. It was more often than not that you found a paper pushing Lizzie's innocent agenda. No one wanted to believe that a sweet, frail, innocent girl could murder her father and stepmother, especially with an axe. The news reports during this time could be considered quite unethical and harmful, since many of them had no evidence to back up their biased beliefs, but still had massive sway over people's opinions.
The Fall River Evening News is the best source to get your news from. I get all my information from there.
No, they're quite biased. They explicitly push Lizzie's innocence rather than just stating the facts.
Well, she's innocent, so why does it matter?
Well, maybe you believe that because you only gathered your information from one source, but if you would read multiple sources and unbiased ones, you'd only state the facts.
Despite all the odds against her, Lizzie Borden was found not guilty and acquitted. She lived till the age of 66, spending the rest of her days in Fall River, and died of pneumonia, having no children. After everything with the media died down, Emma Borden, Lizzie's sister, moved to New Hampshire to live a life in solitude. After finding out about Lizzie's death, Emma fell and broke her hip. 12 days later, she herself passed away at the age of 76. She also died having no children. Before and during the trial, John was elusive. He remained that way even after the fact. He moved back to Hastings, where he lived a quiet life until he died. There is little to no information regarding what exactly John died of. There is also little information surrounding exactly what happened to Bridget Sullivan or Maggie after the trials ended. From what we can gather, she spent the rest of her days in Montana and died in around her 60s or 70s.
Modern story adaptations depict Lizzie as the cunning, heartless killer who strategically got away. The nursery rhyme, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41, is still remembered today.
And there is a wide variety of movies that dramatize Lizzie's life and her possible crime.
No matter who you believe did it, the media sensation of Lizzie Borden still remains to this day.
What was your father like?
My father was quite frugal. Emma, my sister, and I had a Some say I purchased...
Mrs. Borden suffered an initial strike to the head, which cut just above her ear. She then suffered 17 more blows.
Such as wearing all black and carrying a fan and flowers to her trial to make herself seem innocent, and even putting $30 million in her will to go towards it. This long-ass sentence!
Sorry.
Action.
Hey, I'd like to talk about the property.
Go.
Done.